So for this video, I'm going to talk about the story and the meaning of the term 40 acres in a mule. And this is a term we tend to use when we talk about wanting and gaining the proper reparations for the damage that was done to black people because of slavery. And a lot of and when we use this term because we want financial reimbursement. We want land reimbursement for all the damage that was done to our people. So we use the term 40 acres in a mule. And so I'm going to talk about the history and how this term came about. So the story takes place in 1865, in January of 1865. So at this time, the Civil War, which was between the Union, the North, and the Confederates, the South, the Southerners, was the Civil War was coming to an end. So it was January at this time, and Union members um, knew that it was pretty clear at this point that the Union was gonna win this battle. So they wanted to punish the Confederates. They wanted to strip away the land from Confederates, and so with this abundance of land down in the South, they were trying to figure out what to do with it and who would take ownership of this land. So one option was to give it to soon to be or even newly freed slaves. So on January 12th of 1865, uh, Union General William T. Sherman met with a group of black ministers in Savannah, Georgia. So this is January 12th, 1865. He met with this group of ministers and he asked them, once you gain your freedom, what do you want? What's your biggest priority? And altogether, they said land. They said we need land in order to take care of ourselves. That's the best way we could take care of ourselves. So another question the General Sherman asked the black ministers was, when you attain this land, do you want to live amongst whites, or do you want to have your own separate territory? And without hesitation, the ministers said that, we want to live amongst ourselves. We don't want the interference of whites, because the way that this country is they said it's impossible to get along due to the racial climate at this time. Quote for quote, that's what they said. They said the racial climate was too dangerous for blacks and whites to live together. So the demand was to have land and to live amongst themselves without the interference of whites. So once the meeting was over, General Sherman relayed this information to President Lincoln. And within 4 days, so on January 16th of 1865, Sherman put together a document that pretty much stated that newly freed slaves, African Americans, would have their own land without interference of whites. And this land would stretch from, where did they say? The land would stretch from, I think it was about from Georgia to Florida. Let me see. Yeah, so the land would go from Charleston, South Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. So it would be right on that southeastern coast. And they would be granted 400,000 acres of land total. And each family would be granted 40 acres. So 40 acres per family. That's how the first part of that term, 40 acres in a mule, got coined. So President Lincoln approved of this what they called it was Special Order Number 15, which gave newly freed black people abundance of land. They called it Special Order Number 15. So President Lincoln signed it and approved it. But so because of this, a lot of the freed slaves, they migrated to this area and started to settle there. But sadly, later on that year, President Lincoln was assassinated. So when Lincoln was assassinated, the Special Order Number 15 got revoked. and Lincoln's successor, who was President Jackson, he revoked this special order, and he was a heavy conservative, so he gave this land back to the white Confederates. So all the hopes and dreams of blacks having their own pretty much nation within a nation went away within months. And this story is very interesting because it sparked the idea and the probability that of black people attaining their own territory, their own land, and getting reparations. And it's interesting to see how that played out. That blacks were promised 40 acres, and the mule part of the term came from General Sherman working out a deal with the U.S. Army, and he said that he worked out a deal where each black household could loan a mule from the U.S. Army. So each black household would get 40 acres and also a mule loaned from the Army. So that would be a great start for them to develop their own nation within a nation. But that soon was wiped away within months because of President Lincoln's assassination and his successor taking over and wiping away that special order. So it's important to understand that story and know that the fight for reparations is not over. Black people here in this country of the United States, we still deserve our reparations because all the pain and suffering that we've had to endure. We pretty much built this country with our hard labor. That term, white wealth, black labor is true. We built so much for this country and we got so little in return. So we're owed so much money, and then the fight for reparations doesn't have to stop. It should continue to go on, and we have to voice our opinion and say how important that is, that we get the proper reimbursement for our work. And the fight isn't over. By no means, the fight isn't over. So if you like this video, share it, like it, comment, let me know what you think. Just keep spreading that knowledge. Thank you.